Hi, I'm Avery,
And I'm Lily.
and welcome back to From the Closet. Today we're doing our free movie of the month for December 2021. And let me just say, it's kind of crazy that it's December 2020 already.
Oh
Like, I
God.
don't know if it's. I don't know if it's just the fact that 2020 felt like it took 10 fucking years to pass by, but to
I don't
me,
know. I mean,
2021 is like one of the fastest years of my life.
honestly, going through 2020 and then 2021 is just like different year, same thing. You're just moving up the year. Nothing is changing.
No, I definitely think 2020 was worse. I mean, granted, 2021 did start with the insurrection at the Capitol,
Mhm.
which to me that feels like it was like
Dystopian
a month
future.
ago. No, that literally feels like it was a month ago.
Um, well, I'll be honest. I just saying like moving into, you know, the 31st December of what of 2020 and January 1st of 2021, there's no difference. You know,
Yeah, but like going from January to May for me, it felt like there was like
hmm.
a huge difference because suddenly everything was opening up again.
And it's very interesting that we're talking about time. Segue, perfect
Yeah,
segue.
not quite the perfect segue, but I'll allow it. Today, for our free movie of the month, we are covering Back to the Future Part 2. So, of course, you can expect spoilers for this episode, but like we said, it is free. It's on Peacock. So, go watch it. And if you're in the UK,
Sucks to suck.
tough. Yeah, sucks to suck. And I don't know, maybe you watched our previous episode that came out yesterday, or more specifically, maybe you didn't watch our previous episode that came out yesterday, which was on Detective Pikachu, because you didn't know where to watch it. It's on Hulu. Go watch it.
Yeah, we finally figured out where to watch it. Too bad I don't
Yeah,
have Hulu.
I do. Sucks to suck. But yeah, Back to the Future Part 2. Um, I of course had seen this movie before multitudes of times, but I don't remember it being this crazy.
I kind of have. Well, in my mind, it's definitely, I split it into two parts, you know? It's a time where Marty goes to the future and does stuff, and then the other half of where Biff said just gave everyone the middle finger and takes a time machine.
See, like the first part where Marty goes to the future, I remember that quite well. But then the other part, everything just goes crazy. Lots of time travel shenanigans are going on. It's no longer just simple like it was in the first movie. Not to say that it's confusing, it's
Oh
just
yeah,
more complex.
I definitely would say that the first movie laid down the groundworks of time travel. And think about this as a cake, you know? You need your groundwork before you do whatever the hell the second movie was, because that is a terrible analogy for a cake. It's falling over.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't know if this is the case, but to me, it feels like the first movie was all on its own,
Hmm.
and like it sort of left room for the possibility of another movie, but it wasn't like actively dropping hints that there would be another movie. But then this movie was absolutely made with the mindset that Back to the Future Part 3 would happen.
Now, I will have to say that in Back to the Future Part 1, there was the whole scene of Marty, it's your kids. You gotta go to the future to help your kids.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's just they seed a lot more into this movie than they did in the first one.
Yeah, I definitely will say that. And
Like, there's a lot of Back to the Future 3 references in this movie. Um, and for some reason, I never remembered the DeLorean getting struck by lightning.
yeah, I guess I would have to say that's when I watched Memories, like, oh yeah, that does happen.
It's like, for some reason, I seem to have forgotten pretty much everything in the second half of this movie.
I love the moments with Biff because for being a terrible character, he plays that role well.
Okay, I say I forget everything in the second half of this movie, but like I do remember like Biff becoming super rich because of a sports almanac and betting on sporting events. I had no memory of him becoming Marty's stepdad.
I do not remember that either, but for reason I feel like there's reasons why I forgot. I think I
And
permanently
I
deleted that from my memory.
Yeah. So since this movie, okay, the whole thing with this movie is that Marty was going 30 years in the future to 2015. And since it's now 2021, barely, I think it would be appropriate for us to like talk about the different things that they predicted would be a thing by 2021. So I actually wrote some stuff down for this.
So we have hover cars. Now we have flying cars,
Yeah, hovering.
but hovering cars don't exist.
Yeah, yeah. Hovering cars don't exist, and it turns out flying cars are possible, and they do exist, but they are far too dangerous to be given to the hands of civilians,
And they can't hover.
and they can't hover, but also the thing that makes it even worse is that they consume way too much fuel.
Supporting
Perfectly
climate
accurate
change.
weather. Perfectly accurate weather predictions. You can predict when it's going to stop raining down to the very second.
Not even close.
No, no, just no. Self-tightening shoes. This is something that very well could exist, but it's by no means commonplace.
Hmm.
Like the technology exists. It wouldn't be hard to create self-tightening shoes. But as far as I know, no one's done it.
I mean, people have made shoes that you don't have to tighten, but not self-tightening.
Yeah, and similar vein, the jacket that automatically adjusts its fit. I mean, we still use strings for that, so
And then talk about the same
it,
jacket can also make itself dry.
yeah, I wrote that down much later
Ah,
because there's some other stuff that I went
hmm.
into. Another thing, um, the justice system works more swiftly because they've abolished all
Which, by the
lawyers.
way, I love that line. I was gonna say that, and it's like that's my favorite lines.
Yeah, but nope, not the case.
Well, I mean,
3D holograms, we have those.
I don't think
So
they're
they
really
actually,
good though. Are they good?
okay, they're pretty good.
Okay, I haven't seen one,
But
so
the thing is, the one in Back to the Future Part 2 was not good. So we actually have them. They just look better.
okay. But were they that good back in 2015?
That I don't know. Because I first started hearing about like really good 3D holograms when Hatsune Miku was first becoming a big thing.
When the frick was that? I want to say 2016, 2017. Could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I know it was while I was still in high school, and I graduated in 2016. So,
Ah,
um,
but
so I was
wait.
gonna make a comment about the CRT TVs that we see when Marty goes into the cafe, but then I remembered it's an '80s cafe. Um, we don't really see a flat screen. Well, actually, yes, we do. We do see a flat screen TV much later. Yeah, we see one in Marty's house where I'll get to that in a bit
Mhm.
anyway. Kids reacting to video games with "you have to use your hands. It's like a baby's toy." No, we actually tried using no hands video games. It didn't catch on very well.
Though I will admit,
Although it worked really well for Fruit Ninja.
VR has advanced to where you don't actually need controllers in some cases.
Yeah, but I was not really talking about VR and more about the Kinect.
Uh, I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe sometime in the future, probably not, but
Hoverboard is a bit of a weird one because we have things that are called hoverboards
they don't
that don't really
hover.
hover, but then we have trains that literally do hover. Although I think those might also have been after 2015. You know what I'm talking about, right? The maglev trains?
What are they called? I want to say they're called bullet trains. Like,
No, I literally just told you they're called maglev.
but but bullet train does sound familiar.
And then I mentioned the self-drying stuff because that's when it
Mhm.
happened. Because it was after Marty fell into the thing. Because hoverboards don't work over water unless you've got power. I didn't quite catch the reason why, but apparently books no longer have dust jackets. They do. At least hardcovers do.
Hmm.
So, uh,
Okay.
suspended animation dog kennels. That's not a thing.
I don't think it'll ever be a thing.
And then able to put multiple channels on one TV screen at the same time. Technically, this is possible, but
Incredibly
the
inefficient.
way the way that Marty McFly Jr. is doing it,
Not
like
possible.
you're probably well, it's probably possible, but you're probably not going to be doing it.
Completely inefficient. You're not going to retain any information from anything. Except maybe the
and
Weather
then there's
Channel.
the and then there's the making pizza in literal seconds.
Hmm.
Nope, it still takes about 20 minutes to make a
Oh,
pizza.
and the fact that pizza was like this big. I know you can't see, but like this big, and then turned up to a whole size pizza.
Yeah, it was like tiny and it became huge because of hydration, apparently. What?
My gods. I'm just saying. Um,
And that was all I wrote down
the
for what
19,
the future
the
has.
19. When did this movie come out? 1980s.
Yeah, sometime in the 80s because part 3 was in 90.
Yeah. Oh, I think it came out in 1989. That familiar?
Maybe. It'll be in the description when I go to upload this. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can just check the description to see when it came out. Unless you already know, of course. And if you're not listening to this on YouTube, hello, future people, because we're not on other platforms yet.
But soon. The uh, wait, a person to show him the podcast actually said, coming soon to a Spotify near you.
Wow. But essentially, like in this movie, we do get um, like Doc's explanation as to why he built the time machine, and it was basically to study humanity and like by analyzing where we've been and where we're going.
Mhm.
He wanted to like get a better understanding of human minds, I guess.
Which
Which is
was
kind of funny
clearly too
because
dangerous.
Oh yeah, clearly. Because I mean, they start freaking out over paradoxes that could potentially break the entire space-time continuum, or just make people pass out.
Yeah, the latter was correct.
Yeah, except in the movie it was actually the former because I said the options in reverse of the way the character said
Oh
them.
yeah.
Can can I just say though, it is impressive to me that Christopher Lloyd, the actor who plays Doc Brown, is not only still alive, but still acting.
The frick? Nah, wait. I actually looked at him, like when I was looking up this movie. Um, Wait, was that a current photo? He looks old.
Yeah, well, he's in his 80s now.
Back to the Future 2.
Yeah. So,
Christopher Lloyd.
um,
Wow, 83 years old.
so anyway,
Fascinating. I want to see what his latest work is. You can continue.
well, we can get to that later. Anyway, uh, so basically, the plot of this movie it pretty much picks up right where the last one left off. Doc Brown shows up to uh, Marty pretty much the day after he gets back from 1955 and is like, "Hey, now you got to go to 2015 because your kids are going to jail for some shit." And tries to solve it, but because Doc used this little device that makes people fall asleep on Jennifer earlier, there wasn't enough juice to keep Marty McFly Jr. out for an entire hour, and the plan goes awry, but not quite so awry that it doesn't work.
Hmm.
It just made things really complicated. Um, And then, after they've got everything all sorted out, they go back to get Jennifer, who they've left just sleeping in an alley. What the fuck? And guess what? Police have found her. And they're able to identify her by her thumbprint. And they don't question the fact that she's supposed to be 40. Well, they do question it, but not enough. The fact that she's supposed to be 47.
I mean, that skincare routine. Damn.
Yeah. It's like, no, she's a teenager.
I mean, I guess
But
when you're in
yeah,
that situation, you see that. I mean, I'd be
so
envious on that.
they take Jennifer to her home, where the future her is not there at the moment, and she's basically got to try to hide from her children and from her, you know, boyfriend, future husband thing, um, and get out. And the problem is she can't get out because there's no doorknob, and she doesn't know to scan her finger on a thumb plate. Which, to be fair, I didn't even see the thumb plate at
Oh, I
all.
didn't either.
So it's like, all right then.
Um,
But eventually they get out. But the problem is, while they're getting her out, old old Biff steals the DeLorean, travels back in time to deliver a sports almanac that Marty had been planning to take back to the past, and Doc Brown talked him out of it. Uh, Takes it back, gives it to uh, his younger self, and basically that causes 1985 that they go back to be very different. But kind of a plot twist. The day that old Biff went back to was the same day that uh, the dance was occurring in the first movie. The day that Marty was set to go back to the present, which was 1985, which was also like Back to the Future. It's
which
relative time is weird.
Doc Brown was
I,
like. wow, this could be, the meaning of life, or just a good, really.
Well, like there's also a really funny line too where Marty was like, "I feel like I was just here yesterday," and Doc Brown is like, "Yeah, because you were."
um,
Because that's just how weird relative time is when you're dealing with time traveling.
so I was looking at, this actor's, page on, what was it, IMDb? Yeah.
Hmm. Of course, IMDb is not always accurate.
Yeah,
Um,
but I'm not focusing on his newer work. There's just so much Back to the Future stuff. Okay, like Back to the Future TV series airing 1999 to 1992 animated series.
we will probably not. Wait, did you just say airing 1999 to 1992?
Yes, yes, I did.
What did you mean?
1999 to 1992.
That doesn't
Night
make sense. How did it air backwards?
19. Wait, what? Sorry. 1991. Why? I am so used to saying 1999. My brain autocorrects. Anyway, there's
Okay,
a lot of video games.
I'm not surprised. But um, essentially, moving on. There's a lot of hijinks
Video
because they got
slots?
to try to steal. They basically, after Marty and Doc realize they're in an alternate 1985, they figure out exactly when they have to go back in time. Uh, Marty almost getting killed in the process. Because let's not forget that.
How many
Um,
times has
so
Marty almost been killed?
not quite this badly ever.
Hmm.
I mean, the guy was literally shooting a gun at him over and over and over again.
What in the world is this? EDF BTTF Project 85, the Back to the Future fan remake.
I haven't heard of that,
It,
but let's actually get to, doing the podcast.
well, I mean, I think it's a little bit related because, I mean, we are talking about Back to the Future.
Yeah, but we're supposed to be specifically talking about Back to the Future Part 2, the movie,
And
not really the franchise as a whole. Because if we start going into everything that the franchise did, then we're going to be going into weird shit and eventually ending up at like Jetpack Joyride crossover events or something.
yeah, you're right. Though, I mean, I'll be honest, I really only thought that the series was three movies. I don't know why, but like when I thought about Back to the Future, I was like, oh yeah, Back to the Future Part 1, 2, and 3. All classics. Nothing else came from that series. Nothing.
It would be great if nothing else came from that series. Because sometimes it's best to just leave things alone.
Why is there so many slots? I started realizing, the games, no, they're just slots. Anyway, yeah, Biff changed his own future, and now everyone, which, by the way, when they went back, I know I'm doing this before, but I don't think you truly covered on what the hellhole Biff made, 1980 something. Yeah,
5?
5. I want to say 5. But
Yeah, that was just utterly
I,
insane.
I think
Like,
Emmett Brown puts it best. It's like, no, this is, I think it's Greenfield. No, this in hell is Greenfield, but I don't think it'd be much worse.
Yeah, something like that. Except it wasn't Greenfield; it's Hill
Hill
Valley.
Valley. I don't know where I got Greenville.
I don't either.
Like, also, I want the teacher. I swear, it's like, no, is slacker his favorite word?
It must be.
Slackers on
I
my
still don't like
lawn.
him.
No, he's a
I still don't like him.
terrible person. Um, I just want to know how his upbringing would be. Uh,
I am happy to see that like Jennifer is more involved in this movie, even if there is a significant portion of time where she's asleep. She actually does stuff.
and that's actually about it. Jennifer does stuff.
Yeah, Jennifer does stuff. And I mean, they don't like even though Einstein and Jennifer went with Doc and Marty to the future, they don't need to go with them to the past because I mean, their entire reality is going to be overwritten around them, and they're not even going to remember the horrible 1985. So it's honestly a mercy that they didn't take them with them, or a mercy for Jennifer anyway. I doubt the dog will care.
I mean, it would be a mercy. I don't know. Maybe it'll help him with his lifespan.
By like
You
a
said,
few hours.
when you have only a short lifespan, a few hours can help.
But
Oh,
anyway, there's a lot
especially
that goes.
that with the ending of the movie, because someone goes back to you know the old west, and Marty's just sticking around.
But we don't know what happens with Einstein yet.
Yet.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Especially me, because I
Of
completely
course,
forgot.
so did I. Because it's been too long since I've seen these movies.
Oh well, he
But
is just a
yeah,
dog.
this movie ends on a cliffhanger. Because clearly they were expecting to make part three. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Like they completed Back to the Future, the first one, because like they weren't they might have been planning a second movie, but they told a full story
That is true.
with the first movie. The problem is they didn't tell a full story with this. They told half of it, which is part of the reason why I thought like is probably part of the reason why I always felt like Back to the Future Part 1 was a better movie than the other two, and why I'm going to be rating this one lower when we eventually get to
I'll be
that.
honest. There's a lot of banger lines in Back to the Future Part Two. I'm just
Okay, so let's talk about the whole trigger thing with Nobody Calls Me Chicken. It's iconic,
so iconic.
but I kind of hate it
Why is that?
because it's basically just a way for the antagonists in this movie to essentially get Marty to do whatever they want.
I mean, is that kind of the point? I mean,
And
it was
the
directly
problem is like,
addressed.
yeah, the problem is they just do it every single time
Oh yeah,
they need Marty
that's
to do.
I definitely noticed that.
Yeah, they do it every single time that they need Marty to do something stupid.
Though I think there's so much better lines, all like the lawyer one.
Yeah, the lawyer one is hilarious. Sadly, not true, but hilarious.
They abolished our lawyers. Um, I'm not gonna say it's a amazing line, but I want to say that you need the hoverboards don't work on water unless you have power.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be an amazing
I mean,
line or even
I
iconic.
would count it as an okay line. I would God
But then, like, I feel like, ew, you have to use your hands. It's like a baby's toy. Is kind of iconic.
I would say that, yeah.
But yeah,
So, like,
so basically, a good portion of like we do kind of need to get back to doing like plot summary because we've been trailing off on that a little bit. So basically, they get back to 1955 on the day of the storm that will send Marty back to 1985 from the Back to the Future portion. They use a lot of stock footage, understandable. This is the 80s. Then again, there's a pretty popular movie that came out in the 10s that used a lot of stock footage, but we'll get to that when we get to that because we are absolutely covering it. Um, but um, basically, a good portion of this movie is just Marty trying to get the book.
yeah.
Like that's a good portion of the second half. And
And that's basically the goal of the entire second half of the movie.
there is a point where I started thinking to myself, why don't you just wait until your father decks Biff in the face and then go steal it?
And then he did.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I mean, I guess it makes for a less interesting movie, but there is that point where I'm like, I'm literally thinking about it and it's taking away from the movie, in my opinion.
Well,
Like, the fact that I'm noticing it is ruining the immersion a little bit.
for first half of the movie, first half that scene, Marty completely thinks that the book is with the principal, and then he finds out it's not.
Okay, but like I'm talking about like even after he's found out it's not, he goes and is trying to actively get the book back when he should be waiting, in my opinion.
But I remember it was after that scene, and then he looked behind himself, and then it was God, time travel is confusing. But
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But essentially there was a significant portion of time where Marty like he knew Biff had the book, he knew it wasn't the principal having the book anymore,
mhm,
and he was trying to get the book back when I feel like he should have been waiting, and it would have been a lot simpler and a lot easier. Um, I did find the whole sequence funny though, where the guy thought Marty took Biff's wallet. That was kind of hilarious. In a way, he's not wrong.
and does absolutely nothing about it. It's like, hey, I think that guy took your wallet. I don't know why, but just the absolute randomness, like, you didn't freaking stop him, just made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah, it's like mm. Eventually, though, he does manage to get the book back. He burns it, and
And I think the ship and
they're
smarter
about to.
gasoline on that.
Then they're about to get ready to go back to 1985, and the DeLorean gets struck by lightning, and poof, it's gone. Suddenly, and Marty's like all distraught and stuff. Suddenly, a car starts coming up, and it stops. A guy gets out and is like, "Are you Marty McFly?" And it turns out they've had a letter for like quite some time, um, like decades, and like they've been given specific instructions to go find a guy on a specific street at a specific point in time and ask him specifically for the name Marty McFly and give it to him. It's like if I'm that worker, yeah, I'm 100% going to believe that this whole thing is nuts.
And you have been losing a lot of money that day because I bet you would have bet big on how nuts that is. It even says that, damn, looks like I lost that bet.
Yeah, but we don't know how much that person bet. because it's not like really clarified. But essentially, Doc is now in the Old West, and that's where Back to the Future Part 3 is going to be picking up.
And it is said that
Marty isn't even back in 1985 by the end of this
yeah,
movie. It just ends. So,
well, I mean, then Marty
but
goes to that present Doc who just sent, you know, a past version of Marty to the future present.
yeah, and then Doc passes out.
Yeah, that's relatable.
Uh, everything's just a mess.
This is what happens when Doc Emmett Brown invents time travel.
Yep, everything becomes a mess.
And while I was looking through at all of them, Back to the Future stuff, I did find something worth mentioning.
And what's that?
It's the release of these movies, or at least the release date. Back to the Future Part 1 was released in 1985. Part 2,
Yes.
1989. But Part 3, 1990.
Yeah. Okay, so when you were watching this on Peacock, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. At the end of your movie, did it say to be continued in Back to the Future Part 3 coming 1990?
I don't think I actually watched that far because I closed it out after it went, you know, to be continued.
Okay.
Um,
So
I'll,
I was not watching this on Peacock. I was watching my DVD copy. So,
Avery, if you can add like a description note, because I will find out after we're done recording if Peacock does say that as well.
okay. Cool. Um it's just kind of interesting to me, and kind of funny to see something that says coming 1990 because that's still before I was even born, and it's definitely before you were born.
Oh, 100%. Um, but I just really want, like,
Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Lily is basically like 5.
really. No, I was born in 2003.
See, she's like 5.
This just in, Avery's terrible at math.
Shut up. Anyway, yeah, great movie. Not as great as the first one, but hey, none of us are.
Someday, I'll live to be as great as Back to the Future Part 1. You'll never get that, bro.
Yeah. And like I said, the whole thing of nobody calls me chicken, that wasn't in the first Back to the Future.
Oh no.
And it's one of the things that people associate with this franchise.
From this day on, I'll be associating holy huh. He was in DuckTales? Anyway, I'll be associating this movie to no lawyers.
Okay, you do that. Go ahead. It was a throwaway line, but whatever. All right. So, no, that really made no sense, Lily. What is wrong with
You should
you?
know it's everything.
Okay, so I think we should probably rate this movie, unless you have more to say.
I'll be honest, I actually do not remember what I rated it. What I rated the movie first time. First
Frick. Frick, I actually went and listened to our recording of the first episode yesterday, and I tried to remember our ratings,
Hmm.
and I don't remember them. I want to say that okay, I'm going to take a guess, and I could be 100% right about this, and it would be amazing if I am. I want to say that you gave the first movie a 9.5, and I gave it an 8.5. Because I remember saying something about how the whole thing with Lorraine coming on to Marty really made me uncomfortable,
Oh yeah.
and we were talking about how it was going for that, but like still makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway,
So
um,
yeah,
that's
let's
not this episode, so I don't have to
let's
remember
give
if I
our
don't want
ratings
to.
then.
Um,
You want to go first?
I'll be honest, I do not remember rating this movie so high, but um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with an 8.5. I'm gonna go
So
with
what
you
would
and
you give
saying
this
it's
one?
not as. I think I rated it so well because obviously it's a classic, and not just this is also a classic, but like you said, I don't think anything could really beat, the first movie.
So
I said 8.5.
okay, I didn't quite hear it. Maybe your microphone cut out on my end. All right. So oddly, that's what I gave the first movie, if I'm remembering everything correctly. Um, I'm gonna give this movie an 8.0. And that'll be it. I have been Avery. That has been Lily. You can find a link to purchase this movie in the uh, You can find a link to purchase this movie in the description of this video, and we will see you next time.